My goal is to build a system here. And I know that this is going to probably take me a good year. And that's what I usually tell people too. You don't build that in 6 months. You don't build that in 9 months. You don't even build that in a year. It's to build a system that will feed your business for the rest of your life. This is something that's going to build legacy for you to hand off to your kids. You start to build something after a year that will compound and feed you for the rest of your career.
If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plum. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, and today we're discussing second year success. And what I've been seeing a lot lately is I've been making the rounds with success interviews for people that have been coming through the passive prospecting program and just following up on what happened in 2024. And I started to see a reoccurring theme, which is massive success in the second year. And I think in a society that celebrates speed and virality, that this is really important because I think most people quit their channels between month 4 and 7. And you never know, you might be right on the cusp of starting to generate the lead flow. But I think Thomas Edison said, if you quit before you reach success, you'll never really know how close you were. Something along those lines. And that's the point we want to really talk about today. And of course, I've got Krissy here with me. Bring Krissy up and let's see here. Let's talk about this because I've been making the rounds, like I said, on some recent podcasts, and just the second year on these channels is astronomical. It's not even a normal compounding effect. Well, actually, it's more like a 20-year compound effect in year 2. So normally, if you take the penny and double it every day for 30 days, I believe at the end of 30 days, you'll have over $10 million. But of course, day 2, it's 2 cents. Day 3, it's 4 cents. Day 4, it's 8 cents. And so, so you have a lot of cents for almost the first 10 days. And then you get into a few dollars. And then all of a sudden, by the end of 30 days, you have $10 million. And almost we're seeing the 30-day mark with these channels. I mean, it is really crazy. I mean, literally crazy, in my opinion, to hear the success on the second year, but also to contrast that with year 1. And the amount of growth is astronomical. Now, also take into factor that 2023, and so these channels mostly started in 2023. This was 7.5% plus interest rates the entire year. So if you started in 2023, it was extremely challenging. Plus, remember, it seemed like everybody just got sucked out of the market, and listings weren't selling. Buyers were hanging out on the sidelines. And then you have 2024, which was on record the lowest transaction count in the last 30 years. So the transactions just weren't there, period. So it's not that you were a bad agent. I mean, the transactions were non-existent. And some of the conversations I'm having, I look at David Simcox, for example. He went from, what did he do? He did about 5 million in 2023, which is still not bad at all. And here's the thing is that, I don't know, we look at a lot of the larger levels of success, and I think that skews our viewpoint sometimes, especially for the first year. And we're kind of like, well, $5 million, that's not a lot. But in production, actually that could be,
especially for a solo agent.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be a full-time income really for a lot of people. And that really puts you up there over most average agents anyways. But still 5 million in production. And then, but then he went to 22 million, so that wasn't even a double or a triple or a quadruple. That was like a quadruple plus a little bit extra, And for one example, and he's in a town of about between 40 to 50,000 people is his area where he does about 90 to 95% of his business. So that question of, I'm in a small market, will this still work out? Yeah, actually it could. And you could even dominate that market, which he says he is dominating his area. I guess nobody's even come in still to this point. So he said, you go on YouTube anywhere in his area, it's all his videos, and he's capturing all of that market. And he's just one example. I mean, Andre in Florida went from, he went from seven, like there were 5 deals to 178,000 in his second year, 178,000 in GCI, which was massive. Sabrina went from like 70,000 to 175,000 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the average price point is like 238,000, and the average income in Tulsa is like 35 to 40,000. And here she is, second year, making 175,000 in GCI. And then you have the crazy ones as well. Kayla, you have Sarah Newman, you have Seth and Kristen Horst out of Idaho. I just talked to them. They went, these guys went from 6 million to 35 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, crazy. Kayla went, from what I think a 9 million to around 25 million as well. 500,000 in GCI. Sarah Newman went from nothing to 500,000 in GCI second year. Preston went from, I think he said he sold 6 homes the first year on YouTube.
Yep.
And then 500,000 in GCI the second year. And he's in our backyard. So even in our backyard, I wonder, did he steal that 500,000 from us? No, maybe so. But,
I do know that we get calls back and forth every once in a while. We'll get a call asking for Preston, or he got a call when he, he was close to our team. Yeah, he got one from our team too. So
these are and again, 2024 was a struggle for most agents. And here we're seeing people that have a YouTube channel are attracting a ton of business. I mean, that's a lot of business.
Yeah. Well, and it just goes to show you can't afford to not have something like this working for you at this point. I mean, we have these dips in the market. That's real estate. There's going to be there's feast and famine periods in any business cycle, but especially in real estate, we've seen that historically, over and over again. So if you don't have a system for yourself, you can't rely on the market always being good. In a bad market, we still attracted a ton of leads last year. And that's how we've seen it with all these other people as well. You've got to have a system in place. And it also, another thing, when you were mentioning all of these different people, that's a question we get all the time on our trainings is, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I don't know if it's going to work in my market. Every one of those people has a completely different personality, a completely different market, a different size of market. I mean, you talk to Sabrina. So Sabrina has a completely different personality than the Gleasons, who we work with too. The Gleasons are also, serving a lot of the 60 plus community, and Sabrina serves a younger market. So it doesn't really matter where you're doing this, who you are, how comfortable you are, and if you're an introvert or an extrovert. People of all shapes and sizes, in markets, shapes and sizes, they're all doing this and they're all attracting the business. But if you don't have some type of system attracting the leads to you in down markets, you're really going to suffer. And that's really what pushed a lot of real estate agents out of the market in 2024 when things were really, really bad, were people who were relying on that one-to-one calling. It just didn't pan out for a lot of people. So
yeah, I mean, it's and it really just goes to show the compound effect, as we talk about. Whenever I mention about making videos doesn't take you time, it makes you time. Not only does it make you time, it compounds your time. And this is a compound effect that you can't get this from cold calling or door knocking. And if you were to do this on postcards, it would be a ton of money to try to compound that type of results from one year to the next. And this is why I think it takes, most agents, at least back in the day, 20 years to build this type of business. I mean, $35 million in production in a year is a lot. I mean, that is a lot.
lot.
So let's say times, I'm not even that great at I mean, that's just right at $1 million in GCI. I mean, that's pretty significant. And, the Idaho experience, which I just, their podcast is going to be coming out soon. I think the last one, if you're listening to this one, the last one came out was Andre, and Andre, for him, it quadrupled his business, from 1 year to the next. I mean, Idaho experience, they go from 6 to 35. That's almost like a 7x almost. I mean, so I mean, that in itself, and close to $1 million in GCI. So they might be our new, no, well, they're not the new high income earners, I'd say, because Kyler did 175 transactions last year, which was insane. And so he's definitely the biggest one. So it's just, and again, we listen to the negativity sometimes, not just from other people, but, and I'd say for us, especially working in this space, helping others, you could have 99 success stories, and sometimes the one really kind of drowns out, or the joy, or takes over, or it makes you kind of feel like, man, am I doing the right thing? And then I turn around and talk to these people, and I'm like, they didn't have amazing first years, but they still did pretty good by most standards, but still, 6 transactions in 1 year. I mean, yeah, that could pay the bills and get you through, I'm sure, but everyone's got a different earning standard. But all these people stuck with it. And the funny thing is I always ask them, at the end, what's your one piece of advice, or what would you share with aspiring YouTubers? And I think so far, every single one of them has said, just stay consistent, which I've talked about this for the last couple of years. And that the only success trait that I could see across all successful people, and I don't care who you're referencing, whether that's, Dave Ramsey or Alex Hormozy, they stayed consistent at what they were doing. And if you look at their early years, it was next to nothing, but they talk about doing the same repeatable, boring. I mean, look at Dave Ramsey, right? He's had a radio show for 30 plus years. And if you listen to it today versus 20, it's not much different. The only thing I think he's changed his position on is now he says it's okay to buy a house with a loan only if you, I think, get a 15-year mortgage and put 20% down or something, or I don't know. He has a couple of guidelines on it, but it has to be a 15-year mortgage and yada, yada, yada. So it's like, okay, so other than everything else, he's been, against that. And now he's about to reach billionaire status. And the guy started out, again, just cutting up credit cards and zero debt, and still has zero debt. So he's almost got over $700 million worth of real estate as well that he's acquired. And it's all debt free. No loans on any of it, which is pretty impressive.
Incredible, yeah.
So it's crazy, but the consistency of it. And I think about the ones that do quit, and they quit month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7. And that's the other aspect. David Simcox, right? 8 months before his first phone call, 8 months. So what if he would have quit in month 7 or month 6 or month 5 or 4 or 3? He would, he said this was his biggest year. He's been in the business over 12 years. This is his biggest year, 2024, when it was most people's worst year. And it was his best year in his whole entire real estate career, and more than doubled what he had ever done before. And he actually says, I feel like I work less. He goes, I'm not making the calls anymore. I'm not paying for Facebook leads. I just make my videos, and the Idaho experience. I mean, they've grown, they've started their own brokerage. They've grown to 50 agents, and they still said they can't really keep up right now with the business they have there. And so, those good growing pains to have. And they didn't get a call for 7 months.
Yeah.
Not a single call for 7 months. And but stayed consistent, stayed with it. And now, man, the phone is just blowing up.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing too, is that all of these people that we've talked to, they not only stayed consistent, but they also stayed focused on what needed to be said in the videos. I mean, it's one thing to do videos for, I mean, I've talked to people who've done YouTube for years, but they've never gotten a lead. And the reason is because they're not focusing on the right things. They refuse to go away from, this is the day in the life of me as a realtor, come along with me. Or this is a restaurant review, or this is me interviewing somebody on the street. You know, it's like, you have to stick to what people are actually interested in on YouTube. And if you can hack into the psyche of your ideal avatar, that's what actually drives the leads. And doing that consistently over time is what drives the leads. And so sometimes the process sometimes is so simple that we think it can't be that easy. And so we try to get creative. We try to go outside the box. We try to do something different, because boring doesn't seem like it could drive these types of results. But that's what it comes down to. It's these consistently just crazy consistent, by the way. I mean, Andres, he always sends in his videos on time. You know, he's always getting a video for his Spanish channel. He's very consistent. And that's what it comes down to, is that consistency and consistently actually creating content that is being asked for on YouTube, and not just stuff that we kind of are pulling out of a hat and hoping that it sticks. You have to have a real strategy consistently to be able to see that happen. But if you do that, then you are going to get leads at some point. I've never seen this fail for someone completely. If people are consistent for long enough, they always get a lead out of it. And more than one lead. It's not like you'll only get one lead. Once you start seeing a lead, and I always tell people, it's once you start seeing engagement on your channel, you start seeing some comments coming in around the corner, those leads start to come in every single time. I can almost, identify exactly when that's going to happen based on how much engagement is happening on the channel. And that engagement is indicative of you hitting the right topics. That's why it's so easy to have that correlation between the leads and the engagement. And so once you start getting a conversation happening on your channel, that means that the leads are going to start coming in. And that means that you're hitting on the topics that people are actually looking for and actually need to know before they move to an area.
Yeah. And that's funny because, a lot of these people they're still editing with us as well. Yep. After a couple of years. And that's another, business where I've seen people probably quit the fastest just because they I don't know, they think they're going to get this perfect edit, or the editor is just going to know them inside and out off of one video, and they get frustrated with that. And that's, if you let the frustrations take over or win in the beginning, I mean, you would probably quit everything. I mean, I don't know what we don't do in the beginning that isn't a challenge, isn't a little frustrating, isn't sometimes makes us question, should I even be doing this? And it's just like, calm down, get to work, and then, it'll work out. If it's something that you really want to do, and now the examples are time and time again, and now we're piling up. It's just been fun for me to talk to these people about their 2024. And, it's funny because David was in Vegas last week, and he was at a 10X, the Cardone's last,
the big one,
the last 10X event. And he went to, share a cab with somebody, right? So he's sharing a cab, and they start talking. He's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And he's like, I'm a residential real estate agent. He's like, "What do you do?" He goes, "I'm in multifamily." And he's like, "Oh, well, how do you do your business?" And David's like, "Yeah, I get a lot of business through YouTube." And he goes, "I actually, learned a lot of it from this guy named Levi." And then this guy, who's Jerry, by the way, Jerry's like, "Oh, I know Levi. I'm actually partnered with him on a few multifamily deals in Dallas." And so then they're like talking. It was just funny. It's like very small world that took place. And it's just funny. But the thing is that overall, no matter what you're doing, multifamily, real estate, this is a great way to attract the business, and also just to do something different. I mean, again, regardless of who's out there creating this content, you have to stay consistent. Even like with multifamily, I mean, getting into that, there's components of that I still don't understand and know, but I'm not going to let that scare me away from working on that or investing in that. Actually, I'm picking up another property right now. It's been delayed. The whole thing went back and forth. It's actually bank owned, and of course that a lot of back and forth. We've had to extend a couple of times. We actually just had to extend again because they're so slow on everything. And I'm just, my TC is like getting frustrated for me. I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. No big deal. I'm in no rush. I mean, if I got it locked up, we can go back and forth for another 30, 60 days. I mean, I'm not really in a rush to close that deal immediately. But again, you got to, what else are you going to do? I mean, cold call for the next 20 years. I mean, it's, making videos is not really that difficult. And, again, David even talks about how much of a better agent it makes him because he does the research and learns about the community and area a little bit more and actually learns things that he didn't know before.
Well, and I love that you said that because it really reminds me, you really have a responsibility to be more visible than ever. And if you're not more visible than ever, then you can't make your clients' properties more visible than ever. You have to understand these new tools that are coming out. Some people resist it for a really long time because, we get caught in our habits. We do a lot of the same things over and over again because it's comfortable, right? And learning a new skill, learning a new tool, it's not always the most comfortable thing, especially for people. I find that this is kind of the case when we work with people who have been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years. And it's really hard for them to break out of that routine that they've gotten into. They kind of rely on the Rolodex that they have, and they have, all of these other resources and email database. What if those things go away? AI is starting to enter the chat, right? And we have to be prepared with all the newest, latest and greatest tools if we're really going to serve our clients the very best way. And ultimately, especially for someone who's been in the business 20, 30, 40 years, you should not be losing out to agents that are just coming into the industry 1, 2, 3 years in. You have more experience. So you have an obligation to put yourself out there so that you could be the most helpful, the best agent, the best negotiator. You can actually share those skills with your audience. You can't do that if you're not visible.
Yeah. And all these people are very grateful that they didn't quit and they stuck with it. And again, what do you expect? This is the whole point why we have Pete, a turtle, as our mascot, because slow and steady wins the race. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Yep. And, going back to that marathon versus a sprint, if I showed pictures of, and this was actually a good example, they did this in church a couple of weeks ago, and he brought up pictures of Usain Bolt. He's like, who's this? Well, everyone's like, Usain Bolt, that the other girl, Sha'Carri Richardson or something. Who's this? Oh, that's Sha'Carri Richardson. Who's this? Noah Lyles, who even showed Carl Lewis from the 80s, I think, right? And even people were like, Carl Lewis, and then he pulled up 3 or 4 other people. Who's this? Nobody knew. Who's this? Nobody knew. Who's this? Nobody knew. And they were all the marathon Olympic winners, the long distance runners and winners of all gold medal, right? But nobody had a clue who they were. And his whole point was, our society celebrates speed, but it's the longevity, it's the distance runners that win in the long run. Talking about your service and faith in God, and even here, it's just that aspect of it is consistency wins. A lot of times you can just outlast your competition. I can't tell you how many channels I've seen come and go in Dallas over the last 4 years, even some that started earlier on with me 3 to 4 years ago or started right after me that actually came on and had good traction because the competition was really, really low. I've even gone back and looked at some of their channels and they fizzled out, haven't published a video in 6 months or a year. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Wonder what's going on there. Not really sure, but okay. And that's the thing. And now we've got so many new channels popping up, and YouTube is favoring newer channels right now. You'll see it on the feed, and you'll see a lot of shorts on the feed as well. Don't get caught up in that. But it's I saw a speech recently by Sean Cannell of Think Media, and he's talking about views are down across the industry, and he's talking to the big content creators, who are typically getting 100,000 or 1,000,000 views a video, and they're telling him views are down. And he's like, why is that? Well, if you log on to YouTube, especially on your phone right now, guess what? What do you see? Sometimes shorts are loaded at the top of my feed, right? And so, you scroll down, you might get a long, and then shorts, and then it might be 4 shorts, like on the phone, like they're positioning it on the homepage. You're seeing it a lot more, almost like a row of long form, and then a row of short form, and then a row of long form, and then another row of short form. So, if you're not consistent on short form, which again, we're in the real estate space, we're not really seeing where that plays a role just yet. I mean, I think it could. I just don't recommend it in the beginning, so to speak. I mean, I can show you a few real estate channels that have shorts on their channels, and they do just fine. They still get views, and the shorts get views, their long form get views, and a lot of views. So I think it really kind of depends on how you position that, where the shorts fit into the channel. I just think in the beginning, you probably want to really focus on the long form to establish that foundation and the baseline of your channel. But again, anything I can tell you about YouTube, I can also show you the exact opposite of that. So, anybody that says this is how you do it, point blank, no other way, it's my way, this is what's right, I'm like, okay, well, I could show you 100 different channels that do the exact opposite, and they do just well. So that's why I like to say everything we talk about is recommendation. It's recommendation, but the process and the system and the format that we've created here, we've seen it really, really work time and time again. And now it's just reassuring for me because a lot of people have started with us in 2023. Clearly 2022 is a big year for us, and 2023 and 2024 were I would just say flat. And clearly we've gone through our own ups and downs with the market, and that's been reflective of with YouTube, and I think this year is going to be one of our best years. And so of course 2022, whether you had a channel or not, a lot of people were doing okay, at least the first half of the year until interest rates went through the roof. But a lot of people saw that success, and that's what motivated them to start with us in 2023. And so, 2024 was either the first full year or the, really good momentum check. And it's just really encouraging to me to have these conversations, hear about all the success. And I knew they were doing well, but some of these I was just blown away. I was like, oh, I didn't realize you were doing that well. I mean, it's crazy and how excited they are. But it also makes me feel really good about the program, everything that we have to offer, and that those that just stick with it. And what? Like, what if it takes you 2 years to reach that level of success? First of all, weigh that against how many years you've been in the business already. And that's what I don't get to, especially at the 10-year, 15-year agents that come into the program, and they're like expecting virality or 50 leads, within 30 days. And it's like, wait a second, you've been around the block a few times. You know how much it takes to build up. And then you got the people that come in. I think the people that come in with the commitment and almost the neutrality of just, I see this, I see the results, I see other people doing it. I believe that can happen for me too. And I'm going to commit to just making the videos, staying consistent. And if I commit to 2 a week, I'm going to do 2 per week, and period. And then whatever happens. Yeah. Do you get frustrated after 6 or 7 months if you haven't gotten a phone call? Yeah, probably so. But every single one of them, at least the conversations I'm having, they're just like, okay, just keep going. And then sure enough, what I see time and time again is when you get that first phone call, that compounds as well.
Yes,
first phone call, first under contract, first deal, that all starts to snowball. And whether that's law of attraction, belief factor, the universe, God, whatever you think it is, something's happening there where it just snowballs.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up too, because I'm such a believer in, the law of attraction and just manifesting what you want. And I find that the people who are panicked and scared and they act out of fear rather than trusting in themselves, trusting in the process, those are the people who end up quitting way before they should, and people who never see a lead come through, or maybe they just don't see very many leads come through. It's the people who get into this and think, okay, this is my focus for the next year. If I get a lead before a year, that's awesome. But my goal is to build a system here. And I know that this is going to probably take me a good year. And that's what I usually tell people too. In all of our programs, we really tell people this is a year commitment for you, because you may get results before that year. We've seen people get results after one video, and that's kind of an outlier. But the goal is not to get that lead in 1 year. It's to build a system that will feed your business for the rest of your life. This is something that's going to build legacy for you to hand off to your kids, to build wealth that you can hand off to your kids. You don't build that in 6 months. You don't build that in 9 months. You don't even build that in a year. You start to build something after a year that will compound and feed you for the rest of your career. So think of it that way and go into it with just hyper focus, knowing that results are going to come if you're consistent. It doesn't matter how many come in that first year, but you will have something that will take care of you for the rest of your life if you commit to that and you have that mindset going into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to good old Pete, it's funny when we were kind of coming up with this concept, or I was thinking about it, like I really wanted a mascot for passive prospecting. I was like, man, I really want a mascot, but what animal represents, passive prospecting? I mean, that's just weird. I don't know. Okay. Is there, and, because typically animals are mascots of, brands, and football teams, basketball teams, of course. Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess we're just attracted to the animal kingdom. And of course, if you really look into animals, their traits are always something that I think are distinguishable. Right. And so, of course, the lion and the elephants for their memory. Right. And then lions for, of course, king of the jungle. And I don't know, it was just hit me. Oh yeah. A turtle. Yeah. Great. Okay. Slow and steady wins the race. And I think I saw something, I heard someone reference the tortoise and the hare book or something, which every time you read that book, the tortoise always wins. And, it's something that popped in my head, and I thought, oh, that's right. That's what we're trying to really set this mentality with people whenever they come into the program, that this is a long-term strategy. Okay. And turtles live for over 100 years on average, at least house turtles. I don't know. Sea turtles, maybe even longer. I don't know, but
tortoises you pass down from family member to family member.
Oh, yeah. 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 My dad had a tortoise in his backyard since I think he was like 5 years old. And that was, came from his mom. And so, yeah, it was well over 100 years old. And that's that was probably in the 80s for me. And, yeah, it's crazy. They just keep going. And also, they're a little slow to start, but if you've seen one start moving, they can actually move, cover some ground, and they just stay consistent, right? And just do their thing. And they got a thick shell. It's just funny, yeah. And that's really part of the culture that we want to emphasize when people come to the program as well, that, that's the whole reason we have a tortoise as a mascot, because this is a long game. It's a long play. It's patience. It's, patience is a virtue. I mean, that in itself is, timeless, right? It's a principle. So it's just great. I think it's really encouraged me a lot. especially because I know 2024 was a tough year for a lot of people. And we had a lot of people start the program in 2024. Yeah. So now these are all great examples that I can share with them as well and say, hey, look, if you made it through 2024, 2025 could be your best year.
Yeah.
Or even better. And then maybe 2026 is your best year. And if that happens, are you okay with that? And I think so. Why not? And so I'm really encouraged by all the success for all the people that I mentioned. And there's even more that I didn't mention. So these are the ones that have just come on recently that we've been able to talk to. So overall, stick with it, stay consistent, and make the commitment, to do what you say you're going to do. If you're going to do 2 videos a week, do it. For how long? For a year? Okay. And then reevaluate from there. But even after a year, you could be on the cusp. I think about Andy Hollis, who after took him 9 months for his first phone call. That's a lot. So just stick with it, keep going, stay consistent. And anything you want to add on to that?
No, I mean, it's just exactly what you said. And like the, you were saying with the thick skin and the thick shell, it's really hard to kill a turtle. There's a lot of predators out there that go after them that cannot kill them because they're protected. And that's what you're creating, is a system that protects you. It safeguards your business, and it creates opportunities outside of what you've ever had. And that's what you need in this fast moving industry right now. There's a lot of stuff that's changing, and YouTube has just by and large been the most consistent platform out of everything out there, especially on the digital scale. So if you can create a system here, you're going to be pretty set for life once that thing starts taking off. So
okay, well, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.